This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada.
Hello, and welcome to Canada as I See It. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast. I'd like to thank Steve for introducing the show this week. Steve's a friend of mine from university, and he's also a freelance writer of marketing, automotive, and feature articles, and he also teaches marketing at some Toronto colleges. A neat thing he did last year, outside of hanging out with a great bunch of people, including yours truly, he traveled to Mexico to be a part of and write, although I don't think he actually drove, in the Baja 1000. You can find his work at stephenbokenik.ca. Now let me spell that out for you. STEVENBOCHENEK.ca. And I'll also put a link on the Podbean website for this week's show. Today is January 26th, and in 1924, the Canadian Parliament approved the 1921 version of the Red Ensign as Canada's official flag. Now, there had been other versions of this. You may have seen it around. It's a flag with the Union Jack in the upper left corner, and in the upper right corner, it used to be just the emblems of each of the provinces, but as they grew, they changed it in 1924, as I mentioned, to essentially a representation of the Canadian coat of arms. So that happened on this day in 1924. Well, that was a bit of trivia there, and I'm going to continue along that line today. I'm going to talk about Trivial Pursuit. You know, some people have their spirit animal, or, a book or painting that comforts them. This is sort of my happy place. For those who are unaware, Trivial Pursuit is a board game that was invented 44 years ago by Chris Haney, a photo editor for Montreal's The Gazette, and Scott Abbott, a sports editor for the Canadian Press. They gathered as much trivial information as they could, quotes on the trivial, on 6 different subjects: geography, entertainment, history, sports and leisure, literature, and science and nature. The gameplay was each player was given a piece that they moved around a game board by rolling a die. Now, each piece had 6 receptacles, pieces of pie, if you will, one for each of those 6 subjects. As players correctly answered questions posed to them on a particular subject, they would receive the corresponding piece of pie for their game piece. And the person who got all 6 and was able to return home and answer a final question chosen by someone else, his challengers, if you will, they would win the game. You might imagine, listening to me over the last year or so, I don't really get to play this game too often. And why? Well, for those who don't know me that well, I present this anecdote, which I've told you about before, but it bears repeating. At our wedding, Caroline's brother-in-law reminded everyone that James is a non-stop data bank of knowledge with special focus on the trivial. he wasn't wrong. I really get competitive on things, but a game of trivia, well, that's one where you want me on your side. And really, that's how I speak. I mean, you've listened to me on this. I go off on tangents, and especially if it's a subject that comes up that I have a piece of knowledge on and I have a chance to interject, there's that tangent and off I go. It's kind of like the television character Young Sheldon, or even Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. In some ways, I passed that torch on to my daughter Alexis. When we visited the family for my daughter Elizabeth's wedding, Lexi would spend the evenings at our place, and, well, we'd just take up the evening chatting away on whatever subject you could come up with. There's definitely no question that the genes were passed down that side of the family. Give her a subject and boom, just like me, let her go. She's always been her father's daughter. So, well, as I say, I passed on the torch and I've moved on. I now write about T-shirts I own, talk about whether or not a particular fact is Canadian, and I pepper my speech with, "That's what she said," exclamations, So I suppose I am growing. Now, there are dozens of versions of Trivial Pursuit out there now. Some are based on decades, some on your favorite movie, and, well, some just for kids. And you can also play the game online on your favorite gaming system, or if you have a closet, you can pull down the green box that has an elastic around it and tape around the edges, and just set it up for a night of old school board gaming. Pretty short and sweet this week, actually. If you'd like to introduce the show, like Stephen did earlier today, please send me a recording of you saying, "This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada." And you can email that to me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. Oh, another thing I wanted to touch on, I'll go back to some of the numbers for the podcast. In the last week, there were 55 people who downloaded the podcast. Last month, there were 151 people who listened, and so far, all-time numbers, 1,635 people have downloaded the podcast. I want to thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. I've also been tracking where in, the world that people have been listening. And, well, of course, there's Canada, the U.S., some people from Japan, Russia, Thailand, Ukraine, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, the United Arab Emirates, Spain, India, and Mexico. That just blows my mind that there are people all around the world listening. Let me know. If you're one of those people, email me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. Even if you don't want to introduce the podcast, just let me know you're out there and I'll mention your name on a future broadcast. Thank you everyone again for listening. I will talk to you again next week. And that's a part of Canada as I see it. It is written and produced by me, James Warpole, and brought to life by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada. Our theme song is Night Owls by Braden Deal. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. Join us every Sunday for another episode of Canada as I See It.